The Wiregrass Museum of Art created the Intergenerational Learning Project to give students like me the opportunity to learn from those in other generations. All of the people interviewed have one thing in common. They have risen above hardships and now have an informed and wise outlook on the past and our future. With each interview, we were presented with an opportunity to learn more about our world, our culture, and our local history. Now we present our conversations with you.
I'm Anna Barfield. I go to Northview. I'm 17. I'm excited to interview Miss Laney because I'm actually really interested on how she grew up.
Hello, I'm Jeanette Laney. I'm the widow of a military serviceman. He was in the military for 26 years. I'm the mother of 3 children, 5 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. I live in Dothan, Alabama, but we've spent most of our years at Fort Rucker because my husband was usually associated with Fort Rucker, and he either flew or instructed there. We spent a lot of our time overseas. We spent 2 tours in Europe, so we've really gotten to see the world. All my kids have been to places that most kids would, haven't even thought of. And they loved it. I think it was good for them, even though it was difficult not being able to graduate from the same school you started school from. They didn't have that. I'm 90 years old. I was born I was a Depression baby, and when I go visit my daughters, I usually save all the Cool Whip containers and cottage cheese containers, and then when I go home, they pitch them in the garbage. And I guess it's because we saved everything during the Depression. I learned all that from my mother.
So, what was it like growing up in the Depression?
I was an infant, so I don't really remember. I heard that, my father was a grocer, so we didn't really have a problem with food. And so don't have many memories about the Depression itself. I know there were a lot of people that needed, and my father also furnished food for a lot of people who were needy during that time.
Did y'all have any, do you think y'all had any financial hardships? Did your parents ever tell you about that while they were, during the Great Depression?
No, my dad died in 1937, and I was 7 years old. And I don't remember us ever having a financial problem. It wasn't shared with me if we did. And I don't remember having to go without anything. Although there were a lot of needy people, I remember that, going to school, seeing the little ones on the school buses, and it was pretty bad back in those days.
When you were a teenager, what was the culture like?
A teenager?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, when I was a teenager, World War II was going on.
Okay.
And I was going to school, and we participated in all kind of drives that we had. We saved newspaper, we saved metal, we saved anything that was salvageable. We saved toward the war effort. Mm-hmm. And it was a time that, a war was going on, but yet the people were so close and worked together, and we're all for the same purpose, all the same cause. There were no squabbles between the Democrats and the Republicans. It was just a good time, really, of the nation being together. As far as the culture, that it was really not, I think probably our country suffered less than most, well, I know we did better than in Europe, who really took the brunt of it. But things were rationed. You could only get so much gasoline. And when you went to the grocery store, you could only get so much beef or sugar. And chicken, I believe, most meats, I believe, they were all restricted. I mean, you only could get so many ounces, I guess, per person per day or something like that. So.
Do you remember D-Day, like, as it happened, like, on the radio? Like, do you remember hearing about it?
Oh, yes, oh, yes. Yeah, we actually, going back a little ways, we were the only ones who had a radio in our area way back when. So every Saturday night when the Grand Ole Opry was on, every neighbor we had within a 10-mile radius would converge on our house to listen to the Grand Ole Opry. And my brother would have to cut wood to keep, we lived in a house that was only heated by wood. And he would go out and cut wood just about all day. And then he would get up the next morning and his wood would be all gone, been burned, all burned. He would be so mad.
Where and when did you meet your husband?
He is the brother of my brother-in-law, let's put it this way.
Okay.
My sister married Chuck about 5 years before I ever met my husband. And my husband was it was at Fort Benning, Georgia, going to paratrooper school. And on New Year's Eve in 1946, I think it was, he decided he was going to hitchhike to Savannah, Georgia. And so the military used to hitchhike a lot back during those days. And so he hitched a ride to Albany, where my home was. And he spent the night there. And the next morning he saw the name of the hotel, which was the New Albany Hotel. And he recognized the name Albany, that his new sister-in-law lived there. And so he called, and I answered the telephone. He called and he asked me if my mother and I would like to go out for dinner. And my mother said, "Oh no, I don't want to go." And I said, "But I'll go." So we went to see Gilda. It was a movie with Rita Hayworth and Glenn Ford. Sweetie, I couldn't tell you what that movie was about. I could not tell you. I was so involved. But anyway, I'm about to go back to see that movie so I can see what it's about. Yeah. But anyway, he would come to, it was only 87 miles from Fort Benning to Albany, so he would come down just about every weekend. He would come down and he would bring 3 or 4 of his buddies, and I would have to get girls for the boys. And we'd go to River Bend roller skating, we'd go to the movies, or we'd go someplace and dance. But anyway, we really had a lot of fun back in those days. After we married, I joined him in Germany. And here I was, a little Georgia girl that had hardly been out of the state of Georgia, going to Germany, and I'd never traveled. And I had all these instructions I was given by the government, but it worked out so well. The reason the wives went over to join the husbands in Germany right after World War II, the GIs were so bad with those German women that they sent the wives over to calm their husbands, kind of shape up their husbands. Now that's the truth. So,
I'm sure it worked.
but anyway, I don't think I was that much of a problem. But anyway, I went to Germany. That was my first trip, and I remember seeing the newsreels on Saturdays during the war with all the bombed out cities and the incendiary bombs that would just gut all the buildings, just burn them up. It was just awful. And when I was going by train through Würzburg, I remember looking out the window and seeing it was early morning hours, the shadows of those buildings that looked like the newsreels were all burned out or had been just destroyed. So we were over there for 2 years, and then we went back about 6 or 8 years later after it had been cleared and it was an airfield again. And in the meantime, my husband had gone to flight school, so they sent us back the other time. And it's such a small place. It's a wonder they even thought of it again, because it's such a small place. But I was delighted when we got orders for Illesheim again. So we got 2 tours there. Now in Germany, the government furnished maids for all the military wives that were over there. They furnished women for maids and men as they stoked the coal heaters and kept your yard. They were our gardeners.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. But the reason is because the German people, right after World War II, they were destitute. They were pitiful. You just wouldn't realize how terrible they were. You'd see people going down the street without shoes, and it would be snow on the ground. It was pathetic. So our government gave them jobs so they could make money. And then the end of every month, there would be a bus that would come by and pick up all the maids, and they'd take them and get them and pay them. That was the American taxpayers that did that. So we really helped Germany get back on its feet, and I think Germany could probably buy and sell us 2 or 3 times right now.
What was it like to be home with all your kids while your husband was at war?
I loved having my kids nearby. I had 3 good kids. They never gave me any problem. And of course we missed their father, but and sometimes Cindy would come running in the house and say, "Oh, Mom, you got a letter from Dad." Kidding, just teasing. Of course, I'd want to backhand her because I treasured every letter I got from him.
What was it like to move back to the South, like after going to Germany and just like seeing the world?
I was always ready to come back home, always ready to come back, see everybody. You know, they say you can't go home again. You can.
Mm-hmm.
You really can. I would go back until when I was about, I would say 8 or 9 years old, and I would say, don't worry about the future. You're gonna meet a man, a wonderful man, that's gonna show you the world. I lived in a little area in Georgia, and I never dreamed of being able to do and go and see the things. And one thing I told my husband before he died, we were in bed one night just chit-chatting, and I told him, I says, Ike, I want you to know that I love the idea of the travel, all the things you gave me, and I want you to know how much I loved every minute of it, and I did. I had a wonderful life. I really did.
I really enjoyed doing this interview. Miss Laney was amazing. She lived a very adventurous life, and she just traveled everywhere, and I loved learning from how like her generation is totally different from mine, and that I just hope I have such an adventurous life as she did, and yeah, I really enjoyed this.
After watching this film, we hope you have learned more about your history and choose to become an ally to your neighbor in the future.